Hi, this is Alex with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters in Roselle. I'm here today to talk about our August 2026 Club Coffee, a natural process anaerobic fermented coffee from Zambia. Check it out. So as a reminder to everyone, the Coffee Club program is something that we do at Maple Leaf where we bring in a members-only coffee every month, roast it 3 different ways, set out a bunch of notes and information about this coffee, and allow our club members to choose from one of those 3 options for their coffee every month. This is a members-only program and we do have a wait list. We're always looking for new people to join, but it is something that we only see a couple openings of from time to time. So if you are interested in joining the club, please send us a note any way you can, either via email or via text, and we'll make sure to add you to the waitlist. So this month and for the next couple of months, we actually have a series of different Zambian coffees. We have a washed, a natural, and this anaerobic processed natural coffee from Zambia. The anaerobic coffees that we've had in the club before have sort of been a little bit polarizing, mostly because these are very aromatic, winey, just very interesting, off the normal path kind of coffees. In the anaerobic fermentation for coffee, what is done is that the coffee is processed in any way whatsoever, natural, washed, or honey. And then in this process, their beans go through an anaerobic fermentation. As the name implies, an anaerobic fermentation involves putting the coffee into some sort of enclosure and depriving it of oxygen. And this allows the coffee that the beans that are in that container to just sort of sit without any oxygen, and it gives it a very strong fruit-forward sort of flavor. And when you layer that kind of fermentation on top of an African coffee origin, and especially a natural processed coffee, you get an interesting layer of complexity that you just can't see if you take just any off-the-shelf African coffee without that extra step. When we've had these coffees in the past, we've had them from Ethiopia. We've had a couple of anaerobic coffees from parts of Central America. And we've also, about a year ago, I believe, had a Chinese anaerobic fermented coffee, and that one was really out there. I think that was one of those months where I saw a lot of interest from some of my club members, but not a ton of interest from everyone. And there's 2 things really going for this coffee that I think this month will be a nice alternative to some of the previous anaerobic fermented coffees that we've had in the club. First, it's an African coffee, which those are always a little bit more exotic and fun and have some interesting layers of flavor to them. And second, it is a natural processed coffee from Zambia. And Zambian coffees are a nice alternative to Ethiopian coffees in the sense that you get some of that Ethiopian coffee flavor profile with a little bit less of the acidity that you might get from certain parts of an Ethiopian coffee, and you get a nicer, softer kind of tint to it. And one thing that I did do with the coffee this month, that I'll talk about a little bit later, is that the roast process that I undertook with this one was not only to take it a little bit darker for every roast level than I normally would, but was also to stretch the roast out a little bit longer than what I conventionally would for every roast level. And what doing that does is it does suppress some of the acidity and some of the sharpness and kind of mute a little bit of that fermented flavor profile, but it doesn't completely lose it. So I'm hoping that no matter which choice my club members go with this month, they'll find something really interesting and fun about this coffee, as opposed to something that when we've done these fermented coffees before have sort of been a little bit unapproachable. So let's start out with the light roast coffee. This coffee is got a fun, tiny bit of a pop to it. Not a super acidic coffee, but has a nice, thicker, richer flavor, especially for a light roast. Has a berry, peach, kind of sweet, dark chocolate sort of sensibility to the overall flavor, a touch of a floral note that is not, it resembles in some way maybe a coffee from Guatemala or maybe even Colombia. Tiny bit of a spice element too, not something that was surprising to see out of an African coffee, and a very malty kind of texture to this. For a light roast, it definitely drinks bigger than what I would have expected. Part of that might be due to the roast profile that we took with it too. I think if you're a person that wants to say something exotic and fun, this is going to be a really great roast level this month. But if you're a curious person about what a more prominent flavor profile for an anaerobic coffee would be, and you don't want to dial it too sharply, this is probably going to be a decent choice for you this month as well. I like this coffee quite a bit. I think for my light roast fans, this is going to be something that fits in their flavor profile quite easily. If you are someone that's kind of curious about a really nice, easy to drink, easy to approach light roast African coffee in the anaerobic fermented style, definitely go with the light roast this month. For the medium roast coffee this month as well, I think this was a very approachable flavor. I would expect most of my club members to stick with the medium roast coffee this month. Usually that's kind of where most people net out in general. Sometimes I can kind of nudge people to go with a light or a dark overall. Very similar to the light roast in terms of the sweetness, the kind of chocolatey flavor to it. Has a bigger body than I would have expected from an African coffee, especially a natural process. So it will be something very similar to that light roast where you do have kind of a malty texture, something that really does coat your mouth quite evenly, and a nice kind of syrupy feel as well too. Tiny bit of an acidity to this medium roast. It's not going to be super in your face, but much like the light roast, if you are a person that just really struggles with anything with a bit of acidity to it, you probably want to stay away from the medium roast again this month too. Very clean, balanced flavor overall. I like the level of complexity in this coffee. I think that when we get a nice African coffee that has this level of complexity to it from the processing methods and is roasted in a way that's very approachable, the medium roast can be a really nice balance between something that is challenging, but also something that is enjoyable. So definitely worth giving the medium roast a consideration this month. Very easy to drink, like I said, and the fruity tones in it are a little bit less dialed back or more dialed back than that light roast coffee is this month as well. The dark roast this month, we got really dark with this coffee relative to what we normally do. When you see the pictures, this is probably about 4 or 5 days post-roast, and the longer you wait on this dark roast profile, the more likely it is going to have some oils kind of popping to the surface. Not usually something that I do with the club coffees. I really do try to avoid taking something into an oil or oil adjacent level darkness. But this coffee this month, as I mentioned, it was something that I wanted to kind of push the boundaries of my normal roast profiles a little bit in order to make it a little bit more approachable for everyone within the club. Didn't have as strong of a flavor overall as the light or the medium, which is not unexpected. There's a little bit of a flatness to this dark roast that because of that darker roast profile, it's not as prominent and kind of up in your face as the light and medium are in some of the flavor aspects to it. Still had that sweet kind of medium body feel to it that the medium roast had as well. The fruitiness was definitely toned down, took more of a spice kind of note that we would normally see out of an African coffee flavor profile. Those kind of like syrupy, juicy flavors were still there. I think if you are a person that is really opposed to a light coffee profile, the dark roast will probably work for you pretty well this month too. But I'm really not going to try to nudge too many people towards the dark roast this month because while it is good, I think a lot of the magic's really happening in the medium roast this month, and I think that that's probably where most of my folks should stay. But the dark roast still had a lot of fun character to it from the kind of chocolatey, mildly fruity, medium body sort of feel. Very drinkable, tiny bit of a spice kind of characteristic too. Just not something that really stands up and has the same level of depth of flavor as even just the medium roast does too. But still a great coffee. If you're a person that just lives in that dark roast spectrum and you want to try this coffee and see what an anaerobic coffee tastes like as a dark roast profile, this is a really great option this month too. As I said on the roast profile this month, the percentage of development, which is something that we use in roasting circles to try to measure how long the roast stays or is in the post first crack period when it kind of becomes a light roast coffee. Not anything different than my normal approach there, but overall the amount of time that I spent, these coffees spent in the roaster was probably about 1.5 minutes longer than what I would conventionally do. And that was in a very conscious effort to try to stretch the flavor profile out, or the coffee out a little bit more in order to boost the body of this flavor profile overall and sort of suppress a little bit some of that acidity to make this more approachable for everyone within the club. So I do hope that you all have a chance to kind of see the fun complexity in this coffee this month. It's a very pretty looking coffee as well, especially for a natural process coffee. These beans are very pretty to look at, which is a weird compliment to give to coffee sometimes, but sometimes these African naturals can be a little rough in their appearance depending on the quality level of the coffee itself. So I really am looking forward to everyone giving this coffee a shot this month, and we hope to see you next month back for another great coffee in our Club Coffee program. Take care.